Hi and welcome to the podcast. My name is Kristen. You can find me on Instagram as Skein and on Ravelry as K10, that's K10. Hope you're all doing really well. I have quite a few things to share with you today. I've got some finished objects, a new whip which I cast on a couple of days ago, some other whips that I've been working on. I don't have any sewing this week because I just haven't had time, and I think that's everything, so let's get into it. First of all, I want to talk about our knit along which I'm running over on our Ravelry group. That is the Skein T knit along. It's almost over, end of February, so but there's still time if you'd like to join in, come over and say hi. It's basically knitting any tee, top, vest, anything without long sleeves, and we have quite a few people who are joining in, which is fantastic. And so if you'd like to come over and join in, please feel free. I did make up a hashtag on Instagram if you want to follow along there too. It is Skein T Knit Along 2025. I am knitting Violet by Jessica McDonald, which I will show later, and I've actually been working on that because I really want to finish it for the knit along. But yes, anyway, let's talk about what I'm wearing. So this top is not what I didn't make this one. We actually, in Coffs Harbour, we have this really lovely shop which started, I think it opened maybe a few years ago. It's called Kaleidoscope. That's their logo. Anyway, they have lots of local makers. There's lots of things in there. It's beautiful. It's great for gifts. I always go in there and look around. They have jewelry and art and clothing, and it's just such a good shop. Anyway, my parents were up, I think it was around my birthday last year, which is in October, and we went in to have a look, and I saw this top, and Mum offered to buy it for me for Christmas. So this is by Anna Ricketts, who is Anna Uniquely Mine, and I will put a link below. From what I can see, she doesn't have a online shop, which is a bit of a shame, but I'm pretty sure you can message her and she will make up custom pieces. But basically what she does, she has these beautiful, very simple tops and dresses, and I think she does skirts as well, or maybe it's just tops and dresses. But they're a very simple style, but what she does is she goes to secondhand stores and she will buy interesting fabric or tea towels, anything that's embroidered or a little bit different with interesting prints or applique, and she cuts them out and she will sort of Frankenstein it together with other fabric and create gorgeous tees and dresses. So I was lucky to pick this one up. You've got to be quick because when I've been in there, they sell out really quickly. So I will, like I said, I'll put her details below. That's her card. I'm not sure if you can get any details off that, but I will actually put links below. So that's Anna Uniquely Mine, and I love this. It's so sweet. It's got like a denim-y fabric on one side. This is obviously a piece that she's found in a second-hand store that she's attached, and then this cute little lace down the bottom. So, and it's a nice little crop top. It's very cute. So I didn't end up wearing any knits because it is so hot here. It's very humid. We're having the most weird and wonderful weather. Sydney has been hit by floods. The rain is heading up the coast to our way. And we've had a lot of rain overnight, but even though it's raining, it is so humid. We have lots of problems with humidity here in Coffs Harbour, which is really unpleasant. I really don't like this time of year. I do love summer, but yeah, this humidity is just horrible. And of course, dyeing yarn, oh god. I don't have air conditioning. Oh, I do have air conditioning at the studio, but I don't like to use it because it is a huge shed, basically. There is like a kind of rooms that are built at the beginning, the front, the entrance of the studio, and then out the back where I do the dyeing, that is like a big shed. And there's just no point putting an air conditioner on because it just doesn't do anything. It's just wasting electricity. So yeah, we've been getting up really early in the morning and heading in there and then coming home by lunchtime because it's just too hot to be there after lunch. But anyway, I don't think, well, usually this weather lasts until March, April, so we've got a little bit of time left, but I am absolutely dying to start wearing my hand knits, and I'm really looking forward to cooler weather. And talking about cooler weather, I have actually finished 2 sweaters which I can't wait to wear in winter. So let's talk about those. The first one is Arco Iris by Joji Locatelli, and I will put some photos in of me wearing this, and of course Joji's picture as well. I can't wear this because it's way too hot, but it's beautiful. It turned out really well. I did have to do a few mods with this one because the pattern itself is for 0 to negative ease. That's how it was written. However, the smallest size was 32-inch bust, and then the next size along was 36. So there's quite a difference between 32 and 36, and I fall right in the middle, which was 34. And I thought I was going to cast on for 36-inch and have 2 inches of positive ease, but the pattern itself is meant to be for negative ease. So I ended up casting on for size 32, which meant the sleeves were not big enough for my size, and I was a little bit worried that the negative 2 inches of ease would be too small for my bust size. So what I ended up doing was doing some mods, and what I did was, instead of casting on extra stitches under the arms, which would have been probably the easiest way to do it, I decided to lengthen the V-neck and add extra stitches here in the V. And then yeah, so I added, I think there was an extra 4 V-neck repeats, which I think was about 8 rows, if I remember. So the V-neck itself is about 1 inch longer than what it would have been for my size, which is fine because it sits exactly where I wanted it to. V-necks are funny because sometimes they can end up too short and it looks very kind of odd, or too long, but this actually ended up exactly where I wanted it, which was great. So that's where I added the ease for the bust, and I think that I ended up adding about 4 stitches to the body, which was about 1 inch. So instead of being 32 inches, it ended up being 33, almost 34 inches. So that was great. It was 0 ease for me, and it fits perfectly, and I'm really glad I did add the extra stitches. For the sleeves, that was simple. I just picked up 5 stitches at the underarm, and that gave me over 1 inch for the sleeve ease, and they fit really well. And then of course it's a tapered sleeve, so then I had to work out decreases, and I just did my own decrease. I figured out my own decrease rate and just followed the pattern from the cuff down, as in like when I got to the cuff I decreased until I got the size for the cuff, and then just knit the cuff. Actually, that's the other thing that I did too, is the hem and the neck and the cuffs are all meant to be cable stitches. I did do the cables, a cable rib on the hem, and I love the look of it, but I really hate knitting cables. I don't know why, but I just don't like it at all. And I did the cables without a cable needle because they're very simple. I think it's a 4-stitch cable, so that was easy to do, and it wasn't difficult, but yeah, I can't get into it. I have knit a cable sweater before. Actually, it was a cardigan ages ago, and I love the look of the cable sweater and I love the look of cables, but yeah, I didn't have fun knitting it. So what I ended up doing was I just did a 1x1 rib for the cuffs of the sleeves, and same for the V-neck. And yeah, I think it looks fine because it's just a little detail for the hem, something a little different. But yeah, what can I say? I loved knitting this, and I had a lot of fun using the variegated yarn, and it knit up really well. And I actually had a question by someone here on YouTube about knitting with variegated yarn, and I will answer that after I talk about my next sweater, because it was a really good question. So the next sweater is Nebula by Andrea Mowry, and so this is a negative ease or 0 ease sweater. This is plus 18 stitches of 18 inches of ease, so it's a lot different, a lot bigger and boxier. But I love this sweater a lot. It fits really well. It even though there is 18 inches of ease, it feels great to wear. Yeah, I don't know, I can't remember last podcast how much I actually spoke about this sweater, so I hope I'm not going to repeat myself. But things that I really love about this design is the high-low hem, which I know I've spoken about before on the podcast. But what's different about the high-low hem is that it's curved, so it's shaped with short rows. So it has this nice silhouette at the bottom of the sweater, which is a really lovely detail. And I also really like the drop-shouldered shape and the ribbing at the top of the drop shoulders. And I'm pretty sure this is something that Andrea Mowry does quite often, because I remember I knit the Weekender and I'm pretty sure that had a similar thing on the top with the ribbing at the top of the shoulders. I made no mods to this. I just knit the pattern as it was written, and yeah, I just really love it. I love the ease, I love the high-low hem, I love the curved hem, I love the shoulders, I love the neck, I love everything about this sweater, and I really love the color, as I've spoken about before. I just this color is just, yeah, has got me, and I really love it. And I really again enjoyed knitting with the variegated yarn, and as you can see, it actually knit up really well. It didn't pull, and the reason why it didn't pull is because I did alternate every 2 to 3 rows, and I sort of randomly changed yarns. So sometimes I would knit 1 row, sometimes 2 rows, sometimes 3 rows before I switched over and alternated yarns. And I always kept an eye on my knitting to make sure that it wasn't pooling. And when it did look like it was pooling, because sometimes even though you're using 2 strands of yarn, it can pull still. So if it does do that, you just cut one of the strands, you take out a small piece of yarn, and then you reattach it, and then that will shift the color so that it's not falling, the main color, which is like the darker color, which is where your eye goes, it's not falling on top of each other. So yeah, anyway, loved it. Can't wait to wear these. And of course DK weight sweaters, they go so quickly. They're just, I just love knitting them, and I can't wait to cast on another one, which is, I'm thinking about which one I want to knit next. Yeah, I'm still deciding, but I have lots of other things on the needles. I just want to read this question that came in about alternating yarns, and it says, how do you alternate skeins? Do you do helical knitting? If so, how do you handle helical knitting around the raglan shaping or other design features? It's pretty easy on the body, but I'd like to know how to handle it at the top of the garment. And I don't do helical knitting. I used to do helical knitting in the body. I don't ever do it in the yoke because of, yeah, you've obviously got increases and decreases depending on which way you're knitting it, and when you're switching the yarn over, that can fall on one of those areas, which is not great. So yeah, I don't do helical knitting, only in the body. But like I said, I actually have switched. I don't do helical knitting at all anymore because for those of you who don't know, helical knitting is knitting in the round with 2 strands of yarn, and basically you knit one round, and it's always circular knitting, so you knit one round until you get to about 3 or 4 stitches before you switch yarns. Then you slip those 3 or 4 stitches, and then you pick up your next strand of yarn and you work around, and then you just keep doing that. You work around to 3 or 4 stitches, slip the stitches, pick up your next strand and work around. But the problem with doing that is that your gauge changes. So those 3 or 4 stitches that you slip, they end up being a little bit loose, or if you tighten them, you can over tighten them, and the fabric looks odd. And probably only knitters will see it, or probably only I see it, I don't know. But I can actually see when I hold the sweater up that there is a kind of helical pattern going on where the gauge is slightly different, and it's sort of pulling the fabric strangely. So it is a great way to, it's nice and easy to knit, but the overall effect for me anyway, I don't like it, because I like everything to be nice and even, the gauge. So what I do is I change yarn at the seam, or if it's if I'm doing a top down and it's circular yoke or raglan, then I change it at the middle of the back neck, and then when I move to the body, no matter where the stitch marker is, I will change it at the side seam so you can't see it. And let's have a look. I'll have a look, see if you can see where I've done it. And then I just what do you call it? Yeah, I just carry the yarn that I'm not working, the strand, up the side, so you can see here. And it's really hard to show you. That's the where I've done the seam along here, and yeah, it is slightly visible, but I mean, honestly, you've got to get close to look at it. So that's how that's what I do, and it works really well. And of course, knitting things that are flat, if you're not knitting in the round and you're knitting back and forth, then it's the same thing. You're just carrying the yarn up the side of the knitting. So say if it's drop shouldered and you're knitting back and forth, you'll start with at one end, knit across, knit back, and then you might knit across and knit back again with the same strand. So that's 4 rows, and then you'll switch yarn, and then you might knit 2 rows. So you'll knit across and then back to the start, and then you'll switch again. So it's just yeah, it's just alternating at different intervals, because the thing with variegated yarn is it will pattern. It does, if you're knitting the same amount of stitches, then in that fabric, if you're not decreasing or increasing stitches and you're just knitting straight, you will see a pattern starting with the variegated yarn. It's just the way it is. And you can see that kind of in the sleeves here. You can see there's actually a bit of pulling, because the sleeves, I didn't worry, I just changed every second row. I didn't do sort of random changes, but in the body I did. So sometimes I knit 2 rows rounds, sometimes 1, sometimes 3. I just changed it up, and it does mix the colors up. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a little bit hard to explain, but once you start knitting, you realize when you start knitting, you'll see how it will work. And like I said, it's not foolproof. Sometimes pulling will just happen, and then all you have to do, it's basically being mindful and looking at what you've knit and what's coming up. And if you do see some areas start to form where there is a bit of a pooling effect happening, then you just cut the yarn and cut a couple of inches off the yarn that you're working with. You reattach it, and then you keep knitting, and that will break up the pooling. I don't think I even mentioned the colorway names. So this is Kismet. This was knit with our Cushy DK, and this is Mesmerise, and this is Cushy DK as well. And these are our spice colors, which are special colorways that I'm creating for 2025. So all the spice colors, it will run the whole year, and I'm going to be adding lots of different new colors. I will be repeating these. Actually, some of these are still in the shop. But yes, I will be repeating the colors. They're not dyed to order, but I will be putting them, like refreshing them as the year goes, and I will be adding lots of different colors to the shop. I have plans, not next week, the week after, adding a whole heap of sock yarn, or not sock yarn, but fingering weight yarn, which I'm hoping to kind of mix up again and still do sort of variegated but with a bit of a twist. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So for my whips, I'm working on Violet Tea by Jessica McDonald, and this is for the knit along, and I've made quite a bit of progress with this. It's funny, DK weight sweaters just fly off the needles, but fingering weight sweaters just take forever. Okay, so oops, this is what I've got done so far. I feel like every time I show this I haven't made progress, but I have actually knit on this quite a lot. So I'm almost at the point where I start the lace pattern at the bottom, and that goes for 3 inches, and then there's a small hem, and then the body's done, and then I've just got to do the sleeves and the neckline, and that won't take very long. So I'm hoping to have this finished by the end of February. I'm using our Llano base in the colour New Beginnings, and this is all I have left of the yarn that I have here at home. I can dye up more, of course, and I think there is some in the shop. But yeah, it's a lovely colour. It's got little pops of peach and gold and this lovely fawn brown. And yeah, I should try and get this done quickly so I can wear it for the rest of our summer. But yeah, really enjoying this. Again, the pattern is very easy to knit, very well written, and yeah, really enjoying it. So my next whip is the Traveler's Shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I have knit quite a bit of this. It's in that awkward stage where there's bits everywhere, and yeah, it kind of looks a bit like a dog's breakfast at the moment. But yes, I've finished the left front, which is this. I'm now working on the right front. And of course the sleeves, it is a drop shoulder, so the sleeves are coming off the fronts. You do pick up I think you pick up some stitches and finish the sleeve. But yeah, so at the moment I'm doing short rows and shaping the shoulders, which for some reason I keep getting confused in my head about which is the front and which is the back. So I've put a little stitch marker here to remind me. I mean, when you look at it, you can see, but when I'm knitting on it, for some reason I get a bit confused, and I have actually had to rip back a few rows because I've made a mistake. But once this front is done, then all I have to do is the back section, and then it's pretty much home and hosed. I've just got to do the sleeves, and that's it. So yeah, it's just at that awkward time where it's sort of, yeah, it just doesn't look like anything. But really enjoying this, and it is a very quick knit, and had I been just working on this, I probably would have finished it by now. So I'm using our Frizz base, which is our boucle fingering weight, which is lovely and soft. This is the Whimsy colour, which is another one of our spice colours, and you can see it's knitting up with lovely variegated colour. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I don't have a huge amount to say about this, except that it's a pretty straightforward knit, and yeah, I should hopefully have this finished by the next time I talk to you guys. I did cast on something new. This was unexpected. I wasn't planning on casting this on at all, but Andrea Mowry released a new design last week, which is this cute little scarf slash shawl. It's called Thru lines, and I really like, I loved the way the pattern looked. I like the textured stitch pattern, and I really like the stripes, and I love knitting with colour, so that just got me in. And I decided to put together a colour for myself, and then while I was doing that I thought, well, I might as well offer kits. So I put together a few kits that were dyed to order, and I actually luckily enough had the yarn in stock. This is our sport weight yarn called Sportlicious, and so I was able to put together kits. They sold really quickly, really well, so I dyed them beginning of the week, and they've already gone off, which is great. With it being so hot here and in the studio, our yarn dries within 24 hours. It's really quick, so we were able to turn out the orders very quickly. So yeah, I decided to knit it with this lovely brown. Actually, it's funny, I've not really been a brown person, but lately I'm really loving it. Brown and, you know, pops of color. So this is Eclipse, Tequila, and then the pop of color is Fluoro Peach, which I've spoken about on the podcast before, and I said I really wanted to knit with it. So as soon as this design came out, I was instantly thinking that would be my pop of color, and then I was sort of building colors around it. So yeah, that's it there. Really lovely to knit. I will say initially, when I cast on, initially the pattern was a bit, what's the word for it? Not complicated, but you had to really pay attention. But now that I've knit quite a few repeats of it, it's easy to memorize. So it's quite nice to knit. It's I wouldn't say it's like completely relaxing. I am looking at the pattern, but I actually quite like it. It's enough to be able to concentrate on what I'm watching on TV, or if it's a podcast, but it's not overly complicated where I need to focus on what I'm knitting the whole time. So basically this pattern is a mix of slip stitches, a little bit of textured stitch as well, and yeah, stripes of course. I did make a bit of a mistake. I don't know if you can see this row, that row. I accidentally purled. So yeah, there's like this little line of contrast stitches running through the stripes, but then I realized what I did, luckily enough, and then I changed it, because what I ended up doing, so I've got the pattern on my iPad, and I don't like looking at the screen at night. The brightness of the iPad and even phones actually gives me a bit of a headache. So I wrote down, I will show you really quickly, I wrote down the pattern and then a little tally sheet, so I could just read off my notepad what I had to do and then mark it off as I went. But like I said, it looks complicated when you first cast on, and it's like, oh my god. But actually when you start knitting it, it's the same pattern over and over. It's 16 row repeat, and it's actually quite easy once you get used to knitting it. I really love the shape of this too. I do love triangular shawls, but they are difficult to wear. The really long elongated crescent shape shawls, I really like those to wear out, because you can wear them as a scarf almost. And this is kind of a hybrid between both of those. It is actually a very elongated triangle shape. So yeah, it's very easy to wear, and I'm hoping to get this done by the time winter hits, and then I'll have this lovely shawl to wear. I do have kits going in the shop for this shawl tomorrow, because today's Thursday, so tomorrow is our update day. And I have, I didn't dye up all the kits that I offered as dye to order, because I didn't have as much yarn left over, but I did dye the popular colours. So we've got the one that I'm knitting with, which is the Eclipse, Fluoro Peach and Tequila. And then I've got one that's similar to Andrea Mowry's design, which is the Char, Silver and Muesli. And then I did a nice green, because green always sells well, and I love green too. So I did olive, parchment and ginger. This was my second choice. I almost went with this, but then Fluoro Peach, I really wanted to knit with this one, so that's why I chose the colours I did. And then the last colours, the last kit that we have is Stone, Crema and Cinder. So it's a nice sort of neutral. So they will be going in the shop tomorrow, and tomorrow's Valentine's Day. I don't personally celebrate Valentine's Day, but I do have a code for all of our customers, which will be going live tomorrow. So keep an eye on Instagram. I'm going to be sharing that, and that's 15% off all of our pink, red and purple colours that are in stock. 15% off. So keep an eye out for that. And I think that's everything, and I feel like I have raced through the podcast. But anyway, short and sweet, I guess. So hope you're doing really well, and I don't have any B-roll, unfortunately, this week, because I did actually hurt my back last week at work, so I took some time off. I didn't have a very active weekend, and the weather's been horrible too. So anyway, hopefully I will be out and about this weekend. Hopefully the rain goes away and we'll have some nice sun, and I can go and have a swim and have a coffee out and a bit of a ride on our motorbike, which would be lovely, but we shall see. Anyway, happy knitting, and I'll talk to you guys soon. And please leave comments too. I love reading what you write, and yeah, if you have any questions, please ask them and I will talk about it on the podcast. Actually, I did have a question about hand dyeing variegated yarn, and I'm going to actually answer that in the next podcast because I need a few skeins of our yarn so I can talk about it. Anyway, until next time, happy knitting and talk to you soon. Bye.